Yes, sir.
Okay. So so let's start. So this is our first lecture of computer organization and architecture, or you can say computer architecture and organization. So both are commonly used, COA and CAO. So although I think theoretically our name is computer architecture and organization, but right, it works both ways. Okay. So today's discussion, or we'll be giving an overall view what we are trying to learn in this course. So first thing you have to see is this is maybe your first course which you are trying to learn in a top-down approach. Let's see what is top-down approach. So till now, I think you have learned some basic courses like devices, electronic devices. As electronic students, you might have learned electronic device physics, analog circuits, and digital circuits, digital electronics, and other basic courses. So all those courses we were learning from bottom, right? We were learning from different atomic structure. We have electrons, holes. We do dope. We make devices, and those devices we make for making circuits like amplifier, diodes, transistors, etc. are used for so higher thing. And digital also, we have ones and zeros, and these are represented by storing charges. And this we process those signals ones and zeros using gates, and gates, NAND gates, NOT gates, etc. And we make different blocks of using those gates like multiplexer, demultiplexer, and encoder, decoder, etc. And from those units, we again make higher blocks like memory units, and processing adders, complicated arithmetic logic units. So this all courses we were starting from bottom, like charge, voltage from the gates, modules, circuits, amplifiers. Then we are coming to top. But this course is actually top to bottom, or top down approach. We were starting from the top. We were seeing in a system point of view. Right now, we know any course which is looking in a system perspective.
आवाज नहीं आ रही है सर की क्या?
सर ही नहीं है।
सर मीटिंग में है। ज्वाइन पे है सर। So your voice is not coming.
Okay, I'm joining. I'm joining in 1 minute.
Okay.
Okay, there was some network issue from my part. Sorry for that. Okay, so we were discussing about the top level versus bottom top approach. One is starting from the system level and going to the basics, from the devices, modules to devices to circuits to devices to physics to the electrons, protons, and that is top to bottom, and there is bottom to top approach, that is coming from the devices or physics to devices to circuits to modules to top your networking functional kind of thing. Okay, so I don't know, I'm not still able to connect. 1 minute. Yeah, I'll be sharing. I'm not started sharing. Yeah, maybe I've connected. So maybe I will disconnect from here and join to this.
Your voice is off.
Okay, sorry. Fine. Okay. Okay, so I hope I'm audible. So this is our topics starting from basic digital. Uh, we will be discussing uh, basic computer arithmetic, that is addition, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and basic blocks or basic modules required for doing those things. And then we, after we know the basic processing like addition, subtraction, gating, logical operations, we can understand how a processor works. How a processor works. Basically, this is the ALU. Processor in the sense, like what I mean is arithmetic logic unit, which do all the processing, multiplication, addition, subtraction, all those logical operations. And now another important part of the processor is control unit. Then we discuss how the control unit is working, right? Control unit is this, we can say, the crux of the processor in one sense. So, and there is, then we'll understand what is memory unit, how the memory interfacing helps, and how the processor have different levels of memory, registers to RAM. Then we have, secondary memory devices, secondary memory, then peripheral devices, peripheral memory, other input output operations. And then we go different input output, how when we plug a mouse or a keyboard into a computer, what is happening, how the processor, high speed processor is communicating with the keyboard or mouse or any input output device. Then after understanding all those very basic things, then we can appreciate overall working of the computer, right? Then we can discuss some advanced architectures. So what is computer architecture is, you can say it is an art. It's a science and art of designing, selecting and interconnecting hardware components and designing the hardware software interface to create a computing system that meets functional, performance, energy consumption, cost, and other specific goals. So we can see this definition is a bit, versatile or bit wide definition. So why it is wide? Because it is, we are focusing on designing. Here all the hardware uh, parameters or specifications like performance. And what do you mean performance? It's like how much speed our processor is going to run. Performance, that means speed, clock cycle, clock speed. And there is energy consumption. What is energy? How much watt we are going to consume, or our power dissipation, etc. So these are hardware specifications. And there is cost, which reduce our cost by reducing the, lot of high cost memory. We should use low cost memory. We should use some kind of virtual memory kind of things, so other things. So there are many points here. So it is art of designing not only designing, we're selecting. We have a lot of options. We have a lot of options of memory. We can have flash, we have RAM, ROM, we have registers, SRAM, DRAM. So from those options, we have to select optimal thing, what we need minimum, so that our cost is minimum, efficiency is maximum. Okay, so it's not only a sense of designing, it's an art of selecting also, and interconnecting. Properly interconnecting connecting is very important, right? We have a lot of buses. You know what is buses? Buses are the way means why people are traveling from one place to another. Similarly, in computers also there are buses through which our data is transferring from one place to another. So there are data buses, and it is used for interconnecting hardware components. Okay, so not only we have select and design hardware components, we have to connect them properly also, and we need redundancy. What is redundancy? Redundant means backup. We need, if some memory is full or memory is failed, so we need to have some other memory units to take its place, so that it is, you know, having proper backup. We can say robustness, right? This is most fault tolerance, we can say, or robust. Okay, so ultimately the main important thing here is we are trying to create a computing system. This is a very important thing. This is the most important thing. Computing. We are designing a computing system. That means functional, performance, energy, consumption, cost, and other specific goals, right? So this is our main agenda of this thing. After understanding this computer CAO or COA, we'll be able to design, or at least architecturally, you know, understand what are the requirements of the present application. What kind of computing system I need for this? Maybe for image processing, maybe for a, you know, a sensor, a kind of, you know, earthquake detection system, kind of signal processing, or any kind of sensor instrumentation. So we'll be able to understand what is the requirements of a computer system in general. Right now we are using microcontrollers, microprocessors, which are general purpose. But there will be some applications where you need a application specific process or computing systems. For that, our cost, the cost is very important. Cost should be minimum. Our cost should be minimum. Right now you may be using Arduino, Raspberry Pi. They are all general purpose, right? They are general purpose because they have fixed memory, they have fixed processing, and bit width, length width. All those things are fixed. But for a in order to reduce the cost or increase efficiency further, in order to increase the even the frequency, clock frequency, or reduce the power consumption, so we may need some of the computing system or architecture specific to our requirement. So that there comes the need of computer architect. He can design a computer system or a computing system specific to your requirement. Whatever minimum is required, and based on a specific demand, maybe you're operating in a satellite where there is a radiation. Radiation is a problem. So we need some, you know, backup system, redundant system, some more adder units, more processing units should be backing. So something based on the requirement, you are able to understand what are my requirements in current scenario, current application. Okay, so this is about the definition. And what is the main thing here? In the architecture of computers growing and developing every day because of the Moore's law. Although the graph is only giving you the graph till 2005. Right now we are in 2021. This is around 15 years back graph. So, but still, this law is still followed. You can see in every you know, 5 years we are improving the number of transistors. So you can see the transistor or in y-axis. You can see it is increasing by 4 into 10 times, 10 times, 10 times, 10 times. So a more better picture you can get in next thing. So basically, Moore's law is cramming more components into ICs, integrated circuits, right? The command counts doubling every year. So this is a better picture till 2011. Now we have till 2011. So so here also the transistor count is increasing. I think, yeah, this is also into 10 times, 10 times. So you can see the increase in 10 times. For example, you can see here the increase from here to increase to here in a 5 years. You can see the in 5 years, or you can see 10 years or something, we are increasing 10 times. So each year we have significant increasing number of transistors. Okay, so this is a right definition of Moore's law. The number of transistors in an integrated circuit doubles every 2 years. So this is a Moore's law. The number of transistors on IC doubling every 2 years. Getting? That means for right now we can see that if we have 4 cores right now, in next 2 years we may have 8 core, octa core. and next to it we have hexa, or we can have 16 cores like that. Although there are some design issues right now we are facing, like power dissipation problem, a lot of problems we are facing, but still this Moore's law is formed. So can anyone explain why is this Moore's law followed? What is the sign? Is it a sign like law based on physical thing like a gravitational law or some kind of, or how it is followed? What are the forces? What forces help one to follow this Moore's law? I think I'm connected, right? I hope I'm connected. Yeah. So who can tell me what is this Moore's law all about? How are we able to follow the Moore's law? Is there any law that nature is helping us, or how is this followed? It's not a Pascal's law or gravitational law. It's not like any other law which we have studied. Because this is humanly enforced law. We are telling let it happen and it's happening. You can see transistor count is increasing. Initially we had very small memory. We have a floppy disk of 2 MB size, and that was sufficient for us. Right now even 2 TB is not sufficient for us. And this is possible because we are able to push a lot of transistors into. Yeah, this law is followed on the basis of statistical data. So who is following this law? That is a question. So Ritika is telling this law is followed on the basis of statistical data. It's not about statistical data. Yeah, Moore. Moore has suggested based on statistical at that point. But right now, after 30 years also, I don't think nobody is checking the statistics to follow this law. More about it as statistical law is more of a technological cooperation, we can say. All these companies they come together and meet together, and let's try to follow Moore's law. They decide, okay, let's put more resources in research and development. Let us try to compress more transistor into the chip so that Moore's law is followed. It's not that Moore is tried like possibility. Let us put more transistor into chip so that it is doubling every 2 years. Maybe he has decided based on some statistics till that point. But main thing is technology. How technology is improving is the most important thing. So from the 1970s to till now, the technology was improving, and we were focusing because technology improvement is a human endeavor, human effort, human planning. So we were planning so that we need more transistor so that it can follow Moore's law. So it's more of a technology, companies, R&D, academics, all this combined, they were trying to solve the problems of scaling, transistor scaling, transistors becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. So a lot of problems arises. So when they combine together, you can solve better problems. So you can read about this Moore's law. Now, what's the difference we already discussed? So computer architecture is more of a conceptual point of view, more of a functional point of view. What I'm going to do, how am I going to use the memory on what type? For example, we had different levels of functions. Like we can tell the computer to do something based on the programming, high-level programming. We have low-level programming, and in that programming, the programmer is may not be understanding the hardware of the computer. May not be completely understanding. Say he may be using a multiplication, but he may not be aware that there is a multiplier hardware within the processor. May not be. He may be using multiplication, he may be using division, squaring, logarithm, but he is not aware of the hardware resources. So you can say he's working in a functional point of view. That is in a high-level language like C or a Python or some other language like MATLAB. We don't care about what is the hardware we are using. But when we are writing assembly language programming, we are more familiar, we are more able to understand this instruction will be, when I write this instruction, I will be using this hardware resource of the computer, something like that. So architecture is more about top level, and organization more about like how we achieve this much speed, this much performance, this much power efficiency. Power dissipation should be reduced with how much registers I need, how much bits, how much we can say how many bits I need to transfer within a one bus, right? And what kind of memory should be RAM, ROM. So more of a hardware aspects will be dealt in computer organization. Architecture will be concept like von Neumann architecture. We had different kinds of architecture. That is more of a top view, functional view. So we can say, yeah, even architecture, we had to decide what kind of networking topology we need, what kind of memory we need, layering hierarchy we need, how much of caches we need, how much of registers, how much of RAM, ROM, and hard disk. So all those questions of functional and top level importance is discussed in the architecture, and how that architecture is employed or implemented in hardware, so that our performance specifications like frequency, clock frequency, or power dissipation, and area of the chip, all those can be into practice, put into practice in the hardware point of view. That is organization. So you can read about this more. So there are different abstraction of electronic computer system which we have discussed, the top level and bottom level approach. So here the top level is programs, application softwares, which is running on the operating systems. And operating system basically will be running on some kind of architecture, some processor architecture like H285, i7, AMD, whatever, ARM architecture, whatever. And these architectures have the micro architectures. That means they have more subtle way of looking into architecture, like what kind of memory, what kind of processing, turbo boosting, etc., etc. A lot of this micro architecture, and those micro architecture are implemented using logic, like logic modules we can call this, like memories, adders, multiplexer, demultiplexer, different blocks. And these different blocks are made of digital circuits, which we already know how to make digital circuits, registers, multiplexity, etc. And again, we come a bit bottom, we have analog circuits. So basically, digital circuits are abstraction of analog circuits. Basically, circuits are actually analog circuits only, because they will be working on voltages and currents in a continuous level. But we approximate, we abstract it. For like we say, all these voltages more than 3.5 volts is considered as high, or 1, or true, or yes. And all this voltages less than 2 volts is considered 0, or no, or false kind of thing. So that's abstraction. So all the circuits are actually analog, but we use those in abstract point of view. We use transistor as switch, but analog we have transistor as using in an amplifier and all this. But digital is more of abstraction, but the underlying concepts are only analog. And analog circuits are possible because we have again abstraction called devices, transistors and diodes. There we have a black, we have seen already black box kind of approach for transistor, and a diode also, ideal, non-ideal, etc. So two devices also on the lower level. Again, the devices are actually coming into picture based on their physics. We have doping, we have N-type semiconductor, P-type semiconductor using Halls, electrons, and different kinds of lithography or different processors makes our chips. So then only we'll get devices. So this is the level difference. You can say different levels of abstraction. So one can go from bottom to top to understand the physics. Then they can design devices to control electrons and holes, and we can have circuits using the devices. Then we have the digital abstraction, and we have logic modules. Then beyond that logic, we have microarchitectures, and then we have bigger architectures, then operating system working over the architecture, and application softwares. And then again on the top, we have networking also. A lot of application software communicating with each other, like WhatsApp, your Facebook, your all those things. They are again working on the top level. So networking can be a topper, another block which we can add to this diagram. Okay, so this everything parts becomes a part of the computer architecture, right? So basically, we'll be looking from the top view, application software working on architecture, and we have networking, input, output, etc. And we'll be going till basic digital circuits, but we'll not be explaining how the digital circuits are working, but till microarchitecture we will be going. So yeah, we will be going from top to bottom. So another approach is bottom to top. So we'll be discussing mainly the yellow thing and the orange thing. We assume, or there's a prerequisite for this course. So there are a lot of applications. All the embedded systems, if you need to work or understand the deeper working of the embedded system, computer system, this computer architecture course is very important. because in all the fields, automotive, consumer electronics, industrial, medical, and automation, we need process and we need specific devices, specific computing systems for those specific applications. So if you know the computer architecture, you know what is the minimum requirement, and if you can organize the existing hardware so that your application is perfectly satisfied with less cost, more efficiency, less power consumption, less area, etc. Less area is very important. Less area, less power is very important for embedded systems, because mostly they have gadgets like smartphones, some wearable devices, something like this. So you have to make very optimal, very optimal devices with less power. Should most of the battery operated devices. So understanding computer architecture is very important for designing low power processors, low power devices, gadgets, etc. So this is a lot of applications, and for embedded system you need some very good understanding of the software also. So computer architecture also requires some idea of the software, different programming, assembly language programming for different processors, and different um, interfacing, and different how the different operating high level and low level languages just interact with the hardware. So why study computer architecture? So there are some case studies. So without knowing computer architecture, we will not be able to troubleshoot. We will not be troubleshoot what is happening, what are the problems happening in the system. This is an example of case study. It's 1996. It is 7 billion project Ariane. It's NASA project. Viewed of 40 seconds after launch. So what are the costs? Externally, it is very difficult to understand what is happening. But after proper troubleshooting, after experts of computer architecture, the space scientists and the flight engineers, they had to troubleshoot, they had to investigate. And finally, they were able to understand the failure of those Ariane 5 rocket was because of the computer controlling the rocket overflowed in 16-minute range and crashed. What is overflowing? Because when the computer overflow means your memory becomes full and your buffers become full, so you cannot store the latest data, it cannot be processed. For example, the rate at which the data is generated is much faster than the rate at which the data is processed. You can say buffer is overflow, buffer full. So right. So the problem happened here is the code has been extensively tested on Ariane 4 rocket, right? But Ariane 5 has a faster engine that produce larger values for a control computer. So that means every part of the system, your embedded system, a rocket or a satellite, is important, because they were working on digitally, they will be producing data, they will be working on some processor, and they have to, your processor, your main control of the brain has to interface with all those different sensors, different actuators, right? So you have to take data from the actuator, even data from the sensors, using feedback from the actuators, and so all those things has to be managed. You should know very good understanding about what is processor you're doing, what is the frequency, how it is working, how much memory you have, and you have to simulate, test it very nicely, else you'll be facing a lot of challenges. Okay, so investigation is also another good area, because almost all the devices, all the systems in these days are controlled by microcontrollers or even FPGA or even programmable devices. So a very good understanding of these things is required. Even microcontroller, like, or we have Arduino, Raspberry Pi. So all those things are also computing systems. They're also coming under the computer architecture. So basically, we are trying to build better systems, like, or make the existing computer faster, cheaper, and smaller, or more reliable. Okay, so how are we doing? We are exploiting the technological changes, because technology is helping us to make smaller and smaller transistors, so we will be able to make better, faster chips. Okay, and new applications are also every day. We'll be seeing 3D visualization, virtual reality, self-driving cars, right, genomics, personalized medicine, etc. Okay, so, and better solutions to already existing problems. So we have a lot of problems, but we have some solution, but we can improve the solutions. Like, we can improve the performance, we can reduce the power consumption, we can reduce the area, we can make it mobile, we can reduce, convert into gadgets kind of thing. So all this requires how computers working, how the gadgets are working, how it is interfacing, etc. So, and another thing is, these days we have to decide how much which processor we need to select, how much RAM I should need, and so all those things, capacity. So what kind of programming, high level, low level program, high level programming is like C, MATLAB, Python. all those are high level programming, because we don't know what the hardware you're working on. Irrespective of the hardware, you can code and you can get your things done. But assembly language code means just specific to specific processor, what kind of memory, how much memory you have, what are instructions you have. We have multiplication instruction or not. We have, how many registers, etc. So all those questions have to be understood for MIPS assembly code. So assembly code is more of a hardware point of view. Hardware engineers who knows the processor nicely can only do this. So this is, so it's very exciting time to study computer architecture, because we have a lot of cores. Every day our processor increasing number of cores. A lot of heterogeneous computing is also coming, right? So some of the problems I think I'm not discussed, are not put here. So maybe, yeah, this is another thing. Right now we have a lot of process of cheap, very cheap process available. So yeah, so we have to connect different kinds of process for some application. We need, like, we have i7 connected to AMD, is connected to FPGA. It may be connected to microcontroller also. So a lot of this is called heterogeneous process. Heterogeneous process. So it's not easy to communicate, or use different kinds of same time memory. We have different kinds of memory. We have different kinds of flash memories devices, fast SSD hard disks are available, and magnetic memory is lost cheaper. So we have different kinds of memory, different kinds of processors. So to interface them is not easy. So this subject will help you to understand those things. So I'm just going to that, which is very important. Yeah, complex systems, SSD, HDD. FPGAs is another important part of something we'll discuss, which is very important these days. Field programmable gate arrays. Basically, like a microcontroller, but microcontroller is bit slow, because FPGA we are designing our microcontroller, DSP, and all those microprocessor. Everything is already designed. The chip is already designed. The hardware is already designed. But FPGA is not already designed. It is flexible in the sense, like, we can make our own architectures at any time in less time, and high speed to market, and high speed troubleshoot, and dynamic programming and reconfigurability, etc. So those things we'll discuss. And functional, this is functional view of computer. So we know the data has to go to the control computer, which has to be processed, which has to be stored. So this is a kind of functional view of computer, which we'll see more closely. Then we have simplest computers. We have input output lines and peripherals, and we have computer using storage and processing. Okay, so these are the basic definition I kept for some basic introduction, like how the computer interacts with external environment using the input output lines and keyboard, mouse, etc. So basically, computer is doing storage and processing, and you need input output buses. So this is what you are aware of, what you know: CPU and the input unit, output unit. Main memory is there. We have large main memory. We have RAM. Basically, it members to RAM. 4 GB or 16 GB we have, and then processing and control unit forms the CPU, arithmetic logic unit and control unit. So okay, so then we have the, so this is the the memory processing gap, processor memory performance gap. But we can see there's a lot of increase in the speed in both in memory and processing. Maybe I think I have not kept that slide. I have kept one more slide, but yeah. Okay, so that we'll discuss in next class. I think we'll discuss these things one more next class. So yeah, this is what I mean. Logic memory performance gap. Even the processing is increasing at high rate, 3.5 gigahertz is shown, but your memory speed is not increased as much. Although it's only till 2002, which is older version, but still. Okay, so we have 2021 here, so it's old thing, but still the gap is still there. The gap is still remaining. So this much gap we are facing. So this is very important to understand how our processor is not affected by this low memory. So there are a lot of solutions we are doing. One is hierarchical memory. There are different ways we are doing it, but Okay, so this is different ways. So then we'll be discussing each of this unit. This is input output unit, and this memory unit. How we discuss memory unit, then control unit. We'll discuss each of those things one by one. Basically, you understand what is the function of each unit and how it is even hardware, how it looks like in hardware, how you're designing a computer from scratch, right? So what is the control flow, how the control units work. So the basic question I want to ask you is, like, there are two things, hardware and software. So what is hardware? Something which you can touch, which you can feel, and something which you drop will get sound. That is hardware, right? So what is software? Something which is set of rules or something, or some something which helps the user to interact with the hardware. The question is, where is the interfacing? Where the software part you cannot see within the computer. You can open your motherboard, you can see the memory, but you cannot see the software. But still, the question is, where is the interfacing point between hardware and software? So software is an illusory thing, virtual thing, right? We cannot see software. It is something which is running on hardware. So, but where is the software interacting? But user is interacting directly with the software. We are not working directly with hardware, although we may be using the keyboard and mouse, but we are using the keyboard and mouse to interact with the software, right? Directly we are interacting, clicking some buttons, we are clicking some switches, but where is this hard software, this illusion or a virtual thing, touching or interfacing with the hardware? I think that with that question we'll stop. And if you have an answer, you can just tell me. Yeah. Yes. Where is the hardware or where is software touching the hardware? How it is interacting? Yeah, this is the question. Yes. Any suggestions? Any solutions? You can just unmute and you can answer. Where are these touching each other? How it is connecting? How the software is controlling? How the software is controlling the hardware? Which point of the computer? Is like a through operating system? Yes, operating system, but operating system is a general term here. But operating system, what user is interfacing? I'm interfacing with operating system, but operating system is not directly touching the hardware. It is also working on our line. It is also running on something which you cannot say in CPU. In CPU, that is the right answer. But what is in CPU? What is that thing in CPU? That is the question.
Sir, control unit.
Yeah. So can you explain a bit more, Saurabh?
So there are three units basically in the CPU: memory, ALU, and control unit. So, sir, control unit basically controls the functioning of the CPU and processors, the memory and the arithmetical and logical unit. Like it gives the instruction basically to the hardware to perform all the functions and programs that are done by that we give to the operating system.
Okay. So the question is, what is input to the control unit? You're right. Control unit. That's the answer. That is the answer. This control unit is this. You can say the interface. You can say some kind of But what is input and who controls the control unit? Yes. Okay. Those questions we'll be answering as we go into the course, and I think that will be sufficient for. If any questions I can take, quick questions I can take right now, or else you can put your roll number.